Hey folks, I just wanted to spend a couple of minutes talking about the Vim editor. Again, I've been kind of emphasizing that you really do need to learn a command line editor that is a little more sophisticated than something like Pico. So Vim is the one that I tend to use. Emacs is another one. I really don't mind which you use, but I really strongly recommend you learn at least one of them. I'm just going to make this really quick, just the basics. You can find a ton of good tutorials on YouTube for Vim or Emacs. Again, I just want to spend a couple of minutes running through the basics. So, what do we got here? Usual idea for firing up an editor. If you want to edit a file or create a new file, it's just Vim and then the name of the file. So, let's say... Let me go through and say Vim, my new file. And then when you first start up in Vim, you start up in what's called command mode. So in Vim, you're either altering the content of the file or you're in command mode. So from command mode, we can do things like decide we want to start inserting stuff, or decide we want to start replacing stuff, or we can save, or we can quit. For the most part, the way you issue a command is with the colon. So colon, and as soon as you type that, you'll see it drops you down to the bottom line here and waits for you to enter the command. So for instance, Q is the command to quit. Colon Q dumps me back out. Okay, so let's go back and actually do something this time. So the easiest command to start typing stuff in is I for insert. So if we type in an I while we're here, and then you'll notice that it tells us we're inserting, yay. So we can happily type in whatever we want here, and you can hit return as often as you like, and we'll just babble away here, typing in all sorts of stuff. When you're done inserting, to get back to command mode, you hit escape. So I hit escape, and there we are. Now I'm back in command mode. I can use the arrow keys to move around. If I want to use my insert command again, let's say I go in someplace and I want to add something right here. Again, I for insert, and I can start adding some new stuff. And then again, escape when I want to go back to command mode. There is also a capital R command for replace instead of insert. So if I hit capital R, you'll see at the bottom there, it tells me I'm in replace mode. So now what I type replaces whatever was there before. And again, escape to get back to command mode. Now, if I've changed a bunch of stuff and I try and quit, Vim is probably going to tell me or ask me if I want to save my changes. Yes, no, or cancel. So I'm going to say yes. And let's go back and do that again. So we open up our file one more time. If I want to make some changes and save them without quitting, I'll escape. So I'm back in command mode. The colon and a W for write, to write out the contents of the file. And again, this time if I quit, since I've got no changes, it'll quite happily go. If I don't want to save my changes, so I'll insert a bunch of stuff and decide I don't want to keep it, so escape. If I use Q for quit, and then the exclamation mark, basically saying I really mean it, and it bails me out without saving. So those are probably the simplest basics to going in and playing with Vim. A couple of strange things can happen since you're probably all connecting remotely or you're all SSHing in. Every so often you'll be editing a file and your connection will drop in the middle of editing the file. So Vim winds up in this weird state where it had some changes and then you just went away and it doesn't know what to do. So what it will have done is created a .swap file. So I actually went and did that a minute ago and killed my connection. And the name, what did I call the file? So I was editing a file called Vim expt, Vim experiment, and I killed my connection in the middle of it. So watch what happens if I try and edit that file again. So this is the Vim experiment was the name of the file I was editing. So what happens is Vim says, wait a minute, you were editing this file earlier and something blew up and I didn't know what to do. And so it asks you if you want to edit it anyways, or if you want to try and recover whatever happened, whatever changes you had made just before you lost your connection or whatever happened, delete the old one, quit, abort, right? It gives you some options as to what you want to do. Let's say I decide I want to recover. So I'll enter an R and hit return, and it brings up whatever I was doing just before I lost my connection at that point. So let's say I say, okay, well, great, that's wonderful. I'll finish off what I'm doing, blah, 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 blah. And then I say, okay, that's what I wanted. And I save it. And I quit. Now, the only thing is, if we do our ls-a again, it still has that swap file floating around. So now, if I go back and try and edit my file again, it's going to keep giving me that recover screen. So I'm going to quit here. Easiest way to get around that is to actually remove that .swap file. So I remove that .vim experiment.swap. And now I can go back to editing my file normally. So you will run into that every once in a while, just because, I mean, it's pretty much guaranteed that at some point you're going to lose your connection when you're editing things on the server. So that's just a heads up. Let's see, I did want to mention a couple of other bits and pieces. We do have a quick reference linked off of the course webpage, but again, you can find a ton of good tutorials, both as web pages and YouTube and whatnot. I do recommend experimenting with them because there's a ton you can do with the editor. What were a couple of the things I wanted to mention? When you're editing a file, let's go back to our test file there. Oops, that's not what I called it. What did I call it? My new file. My new file. So let's say we're going through and editing away my deep and meaningful file. Again, you can use the arrow keys to move around. You can also jump to a line number by using the number, let's say 3 and then the G. Oops, 3 and capital G? 3 and capital G. So a number and then an uppercase G will let you jump directly to a line number. So if you've got a file that's thousands of lines long, you don't want to have to scroll all the way down there. So just a number, let's say 10, and then an uppercase G, and I jump to line 10. Again, arrows to move around. Otherwise, there are a few things that you can do in terms of deleting. So if I type a lowercase x, it will delete just the single character I'm on. Okay, so I'm just hitting X and deleting what I want here. Or if you type in an uppercase D, it'll remove everything on the rest of the line. So everything, from the cursor onto to the end. So an uppercase D removes the rest of a line. Or if you want to remove an entire line, DD is the easiest way to go. DD, and there she goes. So you can do a little bit of experimentation there. What are a few other useful bits and pieces? I guess the dollar takes you to the end of a line. It just jumps directly to the end of the line. If you hit enter, it brings you to the beginning of the next line. What else might be useful? If you want to save and quit, 2 uppercase Z's are a shortcut for that can be handy. So it's the equivalent of doing a :W and a :Q. So 2 uppercase Z's will drop you out of it and save whatever changes you'd made. The other thing that is useful as a programmer is if you are working with things like brackets, it'll highlight the other bracket, like the matching bracket to the one that you're on, and if you hit a %, it'll jump you to the matching bracket. So obviously when you're playing with code, it's really handy to be able to figure out which brackets match with which and to jump from one end of it to the other. Let's see, what else might be handy? The uppercase J will let you join one line with another. So if I'm on this line and I hit an uppercase J, it'll join the two lines together. If you want to cut and paste, an M for mark and an A for anchor, let's say, and then go someplace else, and a Y apostrophe A will yank that section that I just add there, and we can use a P to put that wherever I like. So it is a little weird getting used to some of the command combinations, but again, if you get a little Vim cheat sheet and just keep it handy beside you, you do get pretty quick with it, or are pretty effective with Vim, pretty efficient with Vim pretty quickly. And again, similar idea with Emacs, a completely different set of commands and controls, but if you take the time to actually learn the fundamentals with it, you'll be way more effective than using most other command line editors. So, just wanted to give you a chance to play with that a little bit. Again, I really do strongly recommend learning a decent command line editor for this and future courses. Alrighty, I will leave it there.